Hello and welcome to Dig It. I'm Peter Brown and hosting the show with me today is Chris Day. Hi Chris.
Hi Peter.
Wow, July in the garden. Summer's started, I think, Chris.
I think so, yeah. Last week or two of reasonable weather. Above average temperatures in certain areas I see appearing, and nice evenings, quite warm. I was out the other night actually potting up my chrysanthemums at 9:30 and getting bitten to death, mind you, with the midges. but apart from that, it was lovely.
Excellent.
Yes.
Just, the thing that I found quite interesting down the allotment the other day, that although we've had a lot of water, the ground seems to be drying out very quickly.
Indeed.
So even though it has been sort of nice and moist, it's still workable, which is nice, not too muddy.
Indeed, and that sort of shows, doesn't it, the resilience of warmth, isn't it, and how your soil really does work and contracts, and obviously the plants are taking in the moisture too, which is good.
Yeah. Excellent. So what we got on at the moment then, Chris? What's coming up this month?
Right, so July, traditionally, quite a busy month for the big shows. So the big main one is the RHS Hampton Court Palace Flower Festival, Garden Festival, obviously in the wonderful grounds of Hampton Court Palace. It is always billed as the world's largest flower show, for good reason, really, because it's a big area, big amounts of space over to marquees, and obviously wonderful show gardens. So it is an amazing place. It's a wonderful attraction to go to, and there's usually plenty to see, and it's a good day out.
Excellent. Okay.
And then between the 12th of July and the 4th of August, it's the good old big butterfly count again.
Okay.
Obviously important. It gives us a snapshot of what's happening with our obviously diversity now and ecosystems being hit by global warming. So it's a count of how many butterflies and moths are to be found. So important to take part. So you can. So we'll put the link on the show notes for the big butterfly count. Another big RHS flower show up in Cheshire. That's the RHS flower show at Tatton Park. Again, a lovely venue. And again, this particular show is going to be the one which is going to be moving around, like we were discussing a couple of podcasts ago. It's on the move, so enjoy it, because it's going to be obviously a good one to go to this year. So that's between the 17th and the 21st of July. And then finally, on the 20th of July, Great Dixter are holding one of their amazing plant fairs. So for the more unusual connoisseurs of plants, and obviously wonderful location, the late Christopher Lloyd's garden there in East Sussex.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks for those things, Chris. So, what's in the news then?
Yeah, there's lots actually, Peter, this month. It's a busy month. But just going back to Hampton Court Flower Show, obviously Plant Heritage, who we chatted to many podcasts ago, they're going to be showcasing a range of national collections, including the Red Hot Poker collection from the Eden Project.
Okay.
Yeah, which is exciting. The Rubus collection from a chap called Barry Clark.
Yeah.
Rubus, of course, they're prickly brambles, but there's some really nice decorative ones as well along the down line. And some hostas, the very miniature and small varieties from Hogarth hostas. So it's there's quite a lot of unusual sort of collections which you just don't see. And obviously Plant Heritage are a great opportunity to showcase these to the visitor, and obviously increase the awareness of certain plant groups. I mean, good old red hot pokers have, they're quite fun plants to have in the garden.
Yeah, they're a nice burst of colour, aren't they? When they come out, they're lovely, I think, and they make a nice addition to any border.
Indeed,
that's good then. And I guess, the chap who's doing the Hosta collection, I bet he's struggled this year with all the slugs that we've had this year.
Indeed, that's going to be quite a tricky one, isn't it? And I suppose the smaller they are, the more susceptible.
Well, if they're a small one, the slug eats half of it, they're even smaller.
Indeed, yes. So they'll be also highlighting some of the missing collections as well, which, of course, there's obviously lots of different collections which you don't see. And always, of course, Plant Heritage is a charity, so it's good to give them a little bit of support. And always make your way down to the market. It's always a really good event to enjoy.
Brilliant. Okay.
And going into the news, Peter, we've got more information about the fact that we should be helping our youngsters get into gardening. And and they're suggesting that gardening should be prescribed as social pursuits. So things like gardening maybe are one of those things. It's a bit of a report which has come out from the University College of London. It's been a 4-year project.
Right.
And they're looking at how obviously the social connection with social prescribing is going to be the way forward, and I suppose it's a really good way of trying to get people obviously to be involved. And obviously the youngsters are people who really need to be involved with the soil to get to know where their food comes from.
Yeah.
And this actual promise that the early evidence suggests that it's a good way forward. So more of that really, and we'll see no doubt more results of that as the work continues on this particular project. And 1 year, this is quite good, 1 year after the Say No to Plastic Grass and Plants campaign, some 90% of members of the Society of Garden Designers, no less, said they will be no longer specifying plastic grass for projects.
Wow. Okay, that's good. It does look okay, and it looks good in some situations.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's environmentally not the best thing, is it? And I think if we can carry on with natural products rather than sort of using just plastic-based things, I'm sure it'll be better for us all in the long run. Yeah,
I think that the game changer is there. And it said in addition, the survey of members revealed that 43% had received fewer requests for this from their clients. So obviously there is a bit of a sea change going on. Maybe that that's getting across nicely. So good. Grass is going to be back. Whether you cut it as much as you perhaps should do, that's irrelevant. Anything which can bring in nature and absorb all that extra rainfall is to be encouraged, I would say.
That's good. And the Natural History Museum down in London has grown a garden.
It has, yeah.
Or some gardens, should I say, around the outside of it.
Yeah, because it's a wonderful building, isn't it? When you walk past, when you go in, it's just a landmark in London, isn't it?
Very beautiful.
Fantastic, yeah. So to actually soften the landscape with plants is good. So that's going to be opening this month, 10 years in the making, according to the information here, and it's going to include a natural discovery garden and an evolutionary garden as well. So the whole idea is, I suppose, to link in with what's inside the museum, really. Maybe it's a progression of that. Obviously, I'm thinking of when you go and see, you used to go when I was young anyway, going to the Natural Museum, it's a massive seeing Dippy, the dinosaur in there. So they're creating a Jurassic garden as well. Again, all links in with the contents of the museum. So,
because I think Dippy's out on tour. I'm not entirely, I think it might be a copy of him, because I saw him in Coventry.
Oh, right.
In the museum there. Like you say, it's a massive, great sort of monster, or he was once upon a time, I suppose. But yes, it's nice to see, and definitely some nice Jurassic plants. I always think of the tree ferns.
Of course, they're iconic, aren't they?
We can just about grow them sort of in this area, but obviously they do suffer a bit with the frost, but things like that really stand out in the garden, and it gives you an inspiration when you see them well.
Indeed, and they were saying that the Willowmy pines are going to be there as well, which obviously they were around in the Jurassic period as well. So well worth it. So if you're going down there, so it opens from the Thursday, the 28th of July. July the 18th. That's when it actually officially opens. But I'm sure when you're down there, you will notice it, because it's quite difficult to hide, I would say.
Gardens usually are, aren't they? That's it. Good stuff.
Yeah. Another bit of news as far as we're talking quite a lot about people today, Peter, but Monty Don's going on a tour.
Oh, right.
To talk about his amazing garden and obviously his conversations with people. So these are very, very popular. They tend to sell out very quickly as well. So if you like Monty Don, you want to find out a little bit more how he created his garden at Longmeadow, and obviously some of his important practices over the years, look out for those. He starts officially on the 8th of July at Kew Gardens, so that's the start of it.
That's a week-long festival of picnic concerts. And I guess people talking about what they've been up to. So
that sounds a really good place to visit, isn't it? And,
well,
what's a venue?
Yeah, isn't it just that, isn't it? Kew's such a beautiful place. You can take a picnic along as well. Why not?
Indeed.
Go and enjoy the surroundings and learn something as well.
Yeah, and so much to see and do. As far as people this month, there's quite a few. We've got a new chair at the Peat-free Partnership, Belinda Howell. So this is basically, as we've been talking a lot about the peat-free debate, this is basically somebody who's been put in place, appointed the chair to oversee the legislation across the UK and the Northern Ireland, obviously to protect those precious peatlands. So this is obviously ongoing as we're recording this. Obviously, the election will be happening very shortly.
That's it, 4th of July, not long now.
Indeed. So obviously, whoever the incumbent government is, they've got to obviously take this on forward and obviously get the legislation through, which obviously didn't happen at the end of last year. So a lot to be done, I would say. She's going to be a rather busy lady.
Yeah, and well, I mean, she's still clearly going to be pushing forward with the peat-free. But again, we don't get a date. So is it going to be the end of the year or is it not?
It's going to be 2025, yeah.
When is it going to happen?
Yes, which we need to know, and certainly in the garden centre industry it would be useful, wouldn't it? Because obviously we're talking to customers all the time, and if we can be a little bit more precise and give them a little bit more of a background, it does help as well. And interestingly, in I think it's Garden News magazine, this particular there's a whole insider view about peat-free growing. This is the chap who has the U Garden company, and obviously they grow a lot of plants for the garden trade. And the article basically says that he's been working quite a bit on the whole process of using peat substitutes and such like, and with little or with some success, but a lot more work he says needs to be done on that. And he gives some really good indications there as well. But also, he does revert back to the fact that the legislation, or the lack of it, is obviously not very good for the gardening trade. So we need to know what we're going to be doing in the future.
So do you reckon I can put my lack of sweet corn germination down to the fact I'm using peat-free?
Possibly, because the problem...
I'm really surprised. I mean, normally, as you know, I'm not a very professional gardener, Chris, but I do try, and you normally get a reasonable success rate. I know I cooked the first lot in the conservatory, and they got a bit warm, but the second lot...
Nothing at all.
Absolutely nothing. No. So it's either... the seeds, but the interesting thing is I've got some new seeds, because I thought, well, the old seeds were a couple of years old, maybe they've had their time.
Indeed.
But the new lot, absolutely not a single...
That's strange,
single sweet corn come up. But.
Yeah, I mean, I do find with some of the composts, if they... because they dry out quite quickly, if they're drying out obviously that crucial, couple of, millimetres below the soil surface where your seeds are, is that enough for them just to hanker the formation of the germination process, maybe? Well, maybe my compost heap will actually be able to be harvested next year, because I've been diligently building it up. Good.
And I was just thinking maybe I should try that as a sort of growing media to germinate seeds in. Or is it going to be too rich, though?
Yeah, I think you could use it as an ingredient to your compost. Yes, maybe. Yeah, put a percentage of that into there. So because that would be good. And obviously if you can run that through a sieve, you'll have then something workable. But it might be worth playing around and experimenting with a few different formulations. If a third, 30% of your own compost certainly is going to be a lot better than a lot of the peat-free compost, that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay, maybe try that next year then.
Indeed. I've got continuing on the people again. We've got a new director at Wakehurst Palace, the Royal Gardens, obviously at Kew. Susan Raikes. Her side is to obviously her remit, isn't it, to make sure that the gardens continue to be beautiful and obviously have a very scientific value from the Kew side. This is a wonderful area. I've been once many moons ago, and it's quite different to Kew Gardens. It's a lot more.
Is it less formal?
Less formal, yeah, definitely, yeah.
They don't mow the grass there quite so often, then, I guess. Yeah,
there's quite a lot of mature shrubs there. It has a mature feeling to it, I would say, and it's a real good complement to Kew itself. But obviously they need to move it on. It has to reinvent itself like any open space as well. So quite a good area of that as well. And so a lot of our listeners will probably be, listening to or watching Good Old Gardeners World. So Nick Bailey is a regular on there. He's a really good, I think, presenter of the show, personally. He's very forthright. He's very concise with his information, and he always puts a spin on things, which I think is quite good. Well, he's heading to University Garden. He's going to become director of the University Gardens of Leicester Botanic Gardens. So that's quite a nice departure. I'm sure he'll still do his presenting on for the BBC, but that's quite a bit of a big move for him. So that was interesting to report that. Yeah,
that's it.
And some interesting new hanging basket rules, and this did make me chuckle actually, Peter. So gardeners in Cambridgeshire Market have been told to complete a £165 a day course on safety or hire contracts for suspended floral displays following a change of a council policy. So
so you can't just hang your hanging basket in the street, or is this commercial hanging baskets outside of shops?
That's it. Yes,
rather than just people in their houses.
No, this is commercial. So basically, 20 lampposts every May are judged, obviously in July this month, by local farmers and such like, and obviously it's all done very precisely, but obviously now health and safety, as usual, has come into the...
They've got involved, have they?
They have.
You've got to check your chain isn't too rusty, and check the hooks.
Indeed,
It's still good to hold...
Make sure it's the right height, you don't want 8-foot people walking into them, I suppose,
No, that's very true.
Indeed.
That's good. Okay.
Well, there you go. Well, that's...
Great to hear health and safety are moving us forwards again.
Indeed, in Cambridgeshire, good old Cambridgeshire.
Sometimes,
And and again, going different parts of the country now, up in Scotland, a bid to rescue a Scottish garden from dereliction in time for its 200th anniversary has been made by a tourism leader. So this is New Gardens on the Isle of Bute. So Kilmorey Gardens on the wonderful island of Bute have been overgrown, so they're needing some work now to revitalise them. So they're asking for volunteers to basically reinstate them, and obviously at the moment they're looking rather described as hauntingly beautiful while depressingly derelict, which is a nice
I
way.
like that. That's a good description. That's brilliant, isn't it? Hauntingly brilliant. Hauntingly beautiful. Depressingly derelict.
So William Jackson Hooker Hughes was a nice link to our last story. So he was the first director to introduce rhododendrons and other plants from around the world to this particular garden as well. So it's got a lot of history attached to it.
200 years old, and it's nice. It's called the New Garden, isn't it?
Yes.
But equally, like you say, sort of, I should imagine if they've got 200 rhododendrons, that'll have overtaken certain areas.
So.
They're very good at sort of taking over areas, aren't they? But it'd be nice to get that restored and working again. That'd
Indeed. Yeah, it's a good... hopefully we get enough people volunteers to get involved in that project. Do you suffer from hay fever, Peter?
Sometimes, not badly. I know some people suffer terribly with it. But I always think working with the bees and getting the bit of honey that I do is a good way of getting pollen into my body, and I also sometimes get pollen as a product that you can just put in things like yogurt and have it that way. So that exposes my body to the pollen, which causes obviously hay fever if you're not used to it.
You're not used to it,
How about yourself? You do suffer, don't you?
I do, yeah. So I alternate my antihistamines every morning. I've got 3 different packets in the cupboard, and I take a different one each day. And so each week I'm taking 2.
And that keeps it at bay, does it?
Sort of, yeah. It seems. I mean, today particularly, the BBC carried a high pollen warning. So and everyone was sneezing in the office this morning. So there you go. But according to a lifelong hay fever sufferer, gardeners and airborne allergens expert Max Weisberg suggests that homegrown foods can alleviate the symptoms. So if you grow your own produce, that in itself
helps as well. Okay.
And I suppose it's for that reason that obviously if you buy locally sourced honey and take a teaspoon of that each day, that supposedly is helpful, isn't it, for your immune system to be...
Well, it introduces you into the things that sort of are out there naturally. That's the idea behind it, I think.
So he suggests eating legumes such as peas and beans, which have a high zinc content and have an antibacterial and antiviral effect on the body, are good too. So, I mean, there's probably a lot of sense in that. So it's another reason to grow your own produce, I suppose, if you're a hay fever sufferer or not.
Well, and equally, he's saying that a lot of the vegetables contain quercetin, which is a natural antihistamine. So maybe you need to start eating more onions, Chris. How about that?
No, thanks. I'll keep to the peas and beans, I think.
Excellent.
Okay. And another story which I'm sure gardeners of a certain age will remember, the late and great Percy Thrower. His greenhouse, which was once used over in Shrewsbury, he was obviously the garden superintendent of the Dingle in Shrewsbury there.
Right.
The old greenhouse is going to have a major revamp. It's been... Basically, it's a 9 by 6 metre multi-angled aluminium structure, thought to be over 40 years old, and it's going to be basically dismantled and transported from the Shrewsbury's main part, the quarry, to a new location, the West Mid Showground. So they're going to repurpose it.
It's a decent size, isn't it? It's 9 by 6 metres.
Oh, things you could do in that.
How many tomatoes and cucumbers could you grow in that?
Indeed.
That'd be brilliant, isn't it?
Indeed. But
it's a nice looking old building structure, isn't it?
And isn't it nice? It is being repurposed and being looked after. It's in this day and age of throwaway society. Obviously, these aren't people who are going to be doing that. So it's Shrewsbury's men's shed. So there's quite a lot of these men in shed sort of groups around. We have one locally in I think Buckingham and Winslow. So
and Banbury, there's one. There's certainly lots of men in sheds.
So well done. Good power to their elbow, and look forward to seeing the new. Restored
greenhouse. That'd be great.
Yeah. And as we were talking about changing the weather, a couple of things on climate change. Another survey, a survey of 2,000 UK garden and allotment owners by WaterAid, suggests that 4 out of 5 gardeners have seen hotter summers and prolonged rainfall affecting their gardens. So we are noticing the change. And I think at the garden centre here we're seeing it too, aren't we? With
definitely.
So we've got to sort of act on that and hopefully be taken with the information we're given, and obviously the latest HTA and the Garden Centres Association, all the information they can give us, which will help us to move forward and adapt, I suppose.
That's it.
Which is good there. And then obviously, flooding. The other spectrum, of course, the amount of rainfall. I mean, I've been reading some horrendous amounts of rainfall across Europe over the last few weeks. Obviously, Floodery, which is a scheme that provides affordable insurance for flood risk homes. They've obviously brought out that resilient gardening can make your home more insurable. So, which and we know probably the reasons for that is obviously we're putting down sort of permeable materials which will get rid of the rain and moisture around your property. That's going to work a lot better than obviously putting down tarmac and solid materials, which of course that just puts more moisture or more rain into the drainage system, doesn't it? And then overstacks. So.
That's it. Well, I saw on the news the other day there's also a new machine someone's invented that's similar to the idea, I'm guessing, of the sort of root restorer machine, which blasts air underneath the tree to sort of reinvigorate the soil. They've got a smaller version that essentially just drills lots of little holes into the ground and then blasts air into the ground. So again, breaking up the soil underneath it and that helps improve the drainage and takes off the surface water, because I think one of the things is obviously surface compaction, and if you've got a compacted area, the water just sits on the top rather than draining through. So doing things like blowing holes in the mud makes it drain better.
Yeah, all that heavy tarmac and concrete, I suppose, isn't it?
That's that's even worse. But at least with mud you can blow it up and make some holes in it a bit more easily.
Yeah. So they're suggesting that using perennial hardy plants, water hardy plants like willow and rushes, might help to do that as well. Obviously, a little caveat there, make sure that you're choosing the right plants for the size of your garden. Willows and rushes are not ideal for the small plot, but if you've got a large expanse and
if you've got a huge garden, it's great to have lovely big plants, but if you've got a standard sized garden, having big willows that are getting 10 to 15 metres tall, they're just a bit antisocial, aren't they?
They are, yes. You don't want to upset the neighbours really with a willow tree, that's for sure. And I suppose, Peter, it's worth mentioning, obviously we're into the pest and disease season now in July. Lots of stories in the press, an awful lot actually on radio as well, about, obviously it's a bumper year for box tree moth or box caterpillar.
Yes.
Oh, gosh,
yes. Are dying everywhere, aren't they?
Very depressing. I've been spraying every Sunday now to try and save mine. And I'm
okay. How's it going? Are you managing to keep it going?
No, slowly but surely. I've lost another topiary this last couple of weeks. They are so aggressive, and there's the sheer numbers of them as well.
The hedges that I've seen, 1 week look great.
Yeah.
The next week,
annihilated.
Totally disappeared. Just all grey stems. And just terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. So, we've seen certainly at the garden centre the amount of increase of people looking for replacements now. Euonymus Jean Hugues and Green Spire, we've managed to secure some more stock, which is great. And I mean, they're selling like hotcakes because it's the go-to plant, I think, for removing of box, which is such a shame because it's a wonderful plant.
It is, and it's such a slow-growing plant as well, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
But like you say, replace it with some Euonymus, and I guess, like any sort of predator, it'll eat all its food source and then hopefully die back down again.
Yeah, hopefully. I suppose it's the perfect storm, and that's what the RHS are saying. It's been obviously a very mild winter, and the comparatively warm temperatures as well through the winter, maybe not through the summer, have helped it along as well. And of course, increasing generations too. But there are sprays you can obviously use. Bug Clear 2 is the one I've been using, which is pretty good. Again, you've got at the end of the day, it's an insecticide, so you've got to handle it with care and treat it.
That's it. Sort of organic gardeners aren't going to want to use that.
No. So unfortunately, there's going to be a sacrifice. There are you can buy obviously bacterial materials as well, more organic friendly, but they're expensive, and how effective they are is a bit debatable too. So, and the other one as well, two things actually in Amateur Gardening magazine, they were saying that you keep an eye out for another caterpillar, which is obviously the oak processionary moth caterpillar.
Yes, we heard about this last month, didn't we?
That
hit the news headlines first time last month, and I mean that's a interesting one, I always think, because the way it forms that ball of like caterpillars, I don't know of many other ones that do that.
And you've got to be really careful because you can get a reaction.
You don't want to touch them at all, do you?
No.
They're quite toxic.
Yeah. So and it's a reportable one as well. So if you do see something, any evidence in your garden or neighbours, or when you're out and about, contact the Forest Research. We'll put the link on there, because I think it's an important one if you do come across it, because they need to know. We don't want an outbreak
of that as well, do we?
Certainly not. No. And on a more positive note, you can also join the Great Stag Hunt.
Okay, what's this then?
So this is
stag beetles, I'm guessing.
It is
not deer,
not deer, or So basically, they wanted to try and get some more information about what the stag population is like, and obviously they have a monitoring service, and it's the People's Trust of Endangered Species, our good friends there, behind it as well. So again, we'll put a link on there, so if you come across them, they are amazing. I mean,
have you seen one out in your garden, Chris?
I've never seen one in my garden.
I've never seen one in my garden. No. I know what they look like, and I've seen them on sort of nature programmes on television, but I've not seen one.
Anecdotally, I think we've had customers are bringing in photographs. They've photographed it in the garden for identification.
Okay, so they are out there.
They are out there, yes, but not that many, sadly. Yes. And another highlight, and I think we've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning. Good old Asian hornets. They do seem to be rearing their ugly head.
Yeah, I think they're in Oxfordshire now, from what I understand. So they're making their way further north and across the country. So
yes.
Well, they're in North Yorkshire as well. So not great for the bee population, but
such is life. It is indeed. Yeah. So that's one to consider as well. And Yeah, we were talking about box alternatives. There's, again, Garden News have run an article saying that there are other suggestions around. And it's quite interesting because they've moved away from the normal replacement plants, and they've highlighted a few unusual ones. Linistra nitida, the elegans, which is the evergreen honeysuckle.
Because that's got nice small leaves, not dissimilar size to a box, a little bit lighter green, I'd say. But and you can sort of keep that nice and low as well, can you?
You can, and you can trim it, and you can topiarise it well, and it is quite fast growing, so you probably will need to cut it probably a couple of times through the summer. However, you'll get to the size you want quickly. That's true, being a honeysuckle, this type of honeysuckle, rather than the flowery ones and the smelly ones, they don't really get much in the way of pest diseases, so that might be another good reason as well. And they and they also suggest Cotoneasters as well in there, and a form of ligustrum, a form of privets as well, a variety which we sometimes stock at the garden centre as well. So I think there's lots of options out there, which is quite exciting for people who have got the issue with box blight and box caterpillar.
And I always think I know it's a totally different shaped leaf, but a nice dwarf yew hedge can look...
Indeed.
I mean, it's really dark and solid in the same way that the box can give you a sort of really good solid barrier. And again, it's another slower growing one. It's, I suppose the berries are possibly a possible worry for some people with young children, because they're not very good for you to eat.
No.
Well, definitely you don't want to eat them, do you? But
oh gosh, no. That's going to be for my replacement. I think from box, I think yew would be a good alternative. I think. Okay. And the lovely thing about yew, of course, is in the spring you get that lovely new growth as well.
It comes through a slightly different colour, doesn't it?
It looks great. It looks very nice.
Interesting. Gives it a bit more variation.
So plenty of food for thought anyway.
Well, good tips there, Chris. Definitely. I think honeysuckle, dwarf hedging, that's a good one.
And we're into the awards, new plants time, Peter.
Okay.
So obviously last month we were talking about Gardeners World Live. The results are in because they have like a People's Award and such like. But the hydrangea first edition called Eclipse won the big Peter Seabrook Award for the best new plant at BBC Gardeners World Live last month, which is great. So hydrangeas have undergone so much in the way of breeding at the moment. I mean,
they've got some really nice coloured sort of mop head flowers now that are multicoloured rather than just the standard sort of blues and whites. And foliage is sort of getting darker in some species as well, isn't it?
Definitely, I think the Dutch generally are the people who are working on it. I mean, I think they're doing an amazing job. They're almost, in a way, reinventing the hydrangea, aren't they? They're giving it a totally new look. So that one picked up the major awards. Other plants which came did well. There's a wonderful coleus called Skeletal that came in well, and an apple called Peter's Gold, a seedling discovered by Peter Seabrook and developed by Frank Matthews. So, and I noticed that variety is going to be available to garden centres this autumn as well.
Oh wow! Okay,
so you'll be able to grow Peter's Gold in your garden too. So a real good mixture of winners actually came through there as well. So, and as we're recording this piece, we've got news that the Prunus Crystal Falls has won the big HTA New Tree of the Year.
Oh right, okay.
What makes this different to your normal flowering cherry is it flowers in the winter. It flowers for up to 2 months.
Oh, wow, that would be good. Because cherries are lovely, but they do have a relatively sort of short flush, shall we say, and then that's it, and we're on to the next thing. But a long flowering cherry, that would be really interesting.
And it's got sort of weeping habit, and it can flower any time from mid-December up to February. And it has pure white flowers, and it does look really good. So well done to
look out for that.
Yeah, indeed. And a perennial which picked up a big award, which again I think it's been doing the circuit, is a variety called Digitalis Apple Blossom, which you will see in garden centres shortly. And it's basically white and pink hues of apple blossom, but the flowers are, like Digitalis have like a sort of bell sort of shape. This is very much serrated, and it looks from a distance elongated as well as serrated. It looks like an orchid from a distance.
Okay, so very interesting.
Yeah, so I can see why that's probably got the judges, because it's certainly a reinvention of the foxglove. So two to look out for on your travels when you're going.
Well, I wonder if they'll be using that for heart medication as well. If it's got
that's
nice flower, it might do good things for your heart.
Again, indeed.
Very poisonous, I should imagine.
Indeed.
If it's like some of the other digitalis, so don't eat that one.
Indeed, very much true there. So that's so plenty in the new plants sort of field, and I'm sure there'll be other ones coming through as we go through the year. We'll report on those, because obviously they're worth looking out for when you're doing your shopping at the garden centre. It's nice to see what's new and exciting as well. And just to finish on this sort of section, Peter, we've got Botanic Gardens charts tree responses. So this again is about climate change, and this is at the University Gardens of Cambridge. They're doing weekly measurements. Are taken from 90 native and exotic trees to get an idea of when the buds burst open, the first leaves unfurl. So they're charting each plant as well. Yeah. And it's obviously very useful for that. I mean, probably all the botanic gardens really need to be doing this, so we can get an idea countrywide what's happening. But
well, this year I would have said spring was a bit later than usual.
Yes,
but it does. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing this research at all, because it's always really interesting. But it does seem, as a sort of layperson just observing, that every year it's always slightly different.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not entirely sure it's always to do with global warming or things like that. It just does seem that certain years it's earlier, in certain years later, in certain years warmer, in certain years sort of slightly colder.
And you wonder if the amount of rainfall we had this winter, could that have contributed to some things coming into flower maybe a little bit earlier, and maybe pushing other things back, because it could be too much moisture around, and the plant, because it's all about combinations of moisture, temperature, and light levels, and all the other things which makes a plant do what it does.
That's it. So, but I'm not saying that global warming doesn't make any. It isn't out there at all. I think we're all well aware of the fact that climates are changing. So it would be interesting to see sort of when the cherries come into flower, whether that's shifting forwards or backwards, and when things like you say, sort of daffodils coming out.
That's it. I mean, anecdotally, yes. I mean, we've had responses at the garden centre here where people say, "Oh, the flowering cherry I bought for my mother was flower. It actually finished flowering on a birthday, so it had moved obviously a couple of weeks. So maybe that's a pointer in your own garden. If you see a change, that perhaps is more observable, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. So shifting the gear, literally. Obviously, this has been in the news. I'm sure everybody will have seen this. Dutch lorry drivers call for immediate action on problematic UK border control posts. So. Yes, these massive queues and the whole process of obviously plants being checked. In fact, plants and food goods now being checked at the ports, and it's just causing absolute chaos. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, you've only got to think back to when they first sort of shut the borders down. The massive queues on the motorways that the lorries were just having to park up on the hard shoulders and waste hours of time. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, and it's the Dutch logistics company who are basically complaining about obviously the long waiting times, the fact that there's not many good facilities for them, and of course damage to goods, because of course they have shelf life. Plants have shelf life. So it's interesting. Obviously, we're getting a lot of plants come from Europe to the garden centre here, and we're certainly monitoring how long plants are taking to make sure that they are looking good as they should be, shall we say.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because sell the plant when it's ready to move on to the next stage, and if it takes an extra sort of half a week to get through, it's already grown, and rather than having a plug that's perfect, it's starting to get a bit root bound, and
maybe
if it hasn't had light, then it gets all leggy and
yellow and
it doesn't look good at all, does it?
Yeah. So I'm sure this is going to be ongoing, and it needs to obviously be resolved, I'm sure.
Again. Well, I think that's it. Hopefully, the government will push things forwards a bit more, and we'll get a few more resources on the borders and get things moving again.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's just detrimental to what we're bringing in. Plants are expensive, and you want the best quality, you want the freshness, and obviously we want the convenience of being able to buy So let's make it easier for the growers.
Well, that's what the latest manifestos seem to be about in the politics, isn't it? It's like pushing the economy forwards and all of that sort of thing. Well, this isn't helping us.
Yeah,
so
let's start with this then, maybe.
That's it. Let's sort Europe and politics out in one fell swoop.
Indeed,
Well done.
Let's get off our soapboxes now. And then another, this is rather nice, this is in Garden News, Peter. So drones and sex change technology to assist one of the world's rarest plants. So this is the cycad family. These are
they're lovely plants. I really love cycads. I always think of sort of pineapples when I think of them. But are they the same family?
I think they are a palm family rather than, because
I thought they're sort of different, but they do look sort of similar, but the bases always look like nice and furry, and you want to go and sort of hug them, but they're really tough and rough when you actually get to touch them.
They're big. When you see them, especially in a photograph in a greenhouse, they look very Victorian. They look like they've been here for millions of years, which of course they have, and that's the thing. So they're trying to obviously use this intelligence now, using drones and artificial intelligence to plot and also to find out females of the plants, the species, so you can find the male and female specimens.
Okay, so they're sexually sort of single-sexed, are they?
Yeah, indeed. So obviously using drones, you can obviously see the flowering parts of the plant, and that can then be able to work out the sex of the of the plant as well, which is really good.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and obviously that's important for the, I suppose, for the existence of the species, isn't it? We've got that information now, and that will hopefully. And again, they're saying because of sudden environmental changes such as temperature, they can obviously do. And the idea is that to build up more genetic information in the future.
Brilliant.
And RHS Wisley. I mean, a lot of people go there to have a look round. It's worth sort of mentioning, when I go there, I always have a look at the trial grounds. And this year, one of the trials for this season is the Veronica family, which is the perennials. And I was looking around the garden centre this week, and we've got quite a few different varieties in, great for your bees and your pollinators.
Well, they've got good flowers on them, haven't they? And bees are always covering them. Yeah,
and nice strong colours as well. And they've got a long flowering season, especially if you regularly deadhead them. So they're doing some new trials, and of course they've got some new AGMs, Award of Garden Merits, which of course the RHS bestow on plants which meet certain garden worthiness, which obviously these varieties do. And so I'm looking through the list there. I think Pink Candy, I think Blue Star Champion. Those are varieties we've been starting to get in now to the garden centre. So AGMs are the ones to look out for. So always look out for that little trophy symbol on the label when you're buying a plant, so you know that it's got the sort of seal of approval and it's a good doer in your garden.
Yeah, because I found it interesting. 18 AGMs were rescinded, where plants are no longer meeting the sort of, criteria, which is, as a criteria, I don't think have changed particularly, have they? It clearly says that we've got newer, better ones out there, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Which
so
is really
I suppose it's sort of selection, isn't it? And if something just doesn't meet the grade, it's pushed back, and I suppose that keeps it all moving nicely. So we always have the best of each different species out there. So good there as well. Okay, and finally on the news piece, we've got the value of the garden. As if we didn't know, it's a YouGov poll. So we like these, but it reveals that people would rather have a smaller house when it came to with a garden, with a larger house with no garden space. So basically, smaller houses but a larger garden rather than a larger garden. Which I think is great. I mean, that just shows you, doesn't it, how things have changed, obviously, since the COVID pandemic. Gardening is a bit interested, but actually how important our green space is outside our doors.
Well, I think, as we all know, it's nice to get out in the outdoors, and it's good for your mental health, it's good for your physical health if you're wielding a spade or something down the garden. It's always hard work. I always think when I come back from the allotment, it's like, you do 2-3 hours down there, so I think I need to stop now, because
I know.
I'm always impressed by, you think, proper gardeners who can work a spade all day long or a fork all day long, they are physically really fit.
Very
I mean,
fit,
it's a very good sort of hobby to have to keep yourself fit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great workout, isn't it? As somebody said, you know, your garden is your gym if you use it rightly. If you use the right tools, do the right sort of jobs.
That's it. Chopping up wood and pruning things. I mean, that's hard work and digging and
mowing the lawn. I suppose is good for your steps.
It's definitely
So if you look at your garden, sometimes I think, well, it's hard work. Actually, it's to your health.
Good work. It's good work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the news, Peter.
Brilliant. So I guess that brings us on to top 5.
Yes, and
what are we doing this
It's July.
Month? Yep.
1st of July is the start of Wimbledon fortnight. So I thought it'd be quite nice to pick out our top-selling strawberries.
Wow. Okay, this will be interesting. I mean, strawberries are one of my favourite fruits,
definitely.
without a doubt. And we've got some, at the moment, the restaurant and the shop. Well, for the last month, I'm going to say, we've had strawberries from 3 miles away, are they? 4 miles away? They
just down the road.
Yeah, literally just the other side of Finmere. There's a massive great polytunnel where they're being grown. And
are they nice?
Really nice.
Yes.
I had it. I trialled some.
You did?
Joe from the restaurant kindly gave me some to sample the other day, and they're really nice.
Good, yeah.
And like you say, sort of, it's such a nice fruit. But so... Where are we with the sales? Which ones are in number 5?
Number 5 is Elsanta.
Okay.
So Elsanta is the variety which they generally serve at Wimbledon.
Yep.
So that's got good flavour, nice sweetness. At number 4, Honey Eye.
Yep, that's a very popular one, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a nice fruit, nice flavour.
Good size for it as well. Yep. At 3rd place, Happel.
Yep.
At number 2, Cambridge favourite.
I like that. I love a Cambridge favourite. And the one that really surprises me is number 1, because I'm not entirely sure I've had it.
Yeah, I think.
Which variety is it, Chris?
That's the variety called Symphony.
Okay.
And it is one you probably would have done because it's quite a good commercial variety in the supermarket. So we do. But to be honest with you, when I was looking at the figures, I mean, they're all pretty high up there. In fact, Honey Eye and Elsanta were jostling for that 4th and 5th place. So it does right, and that's based on our mail order plant sales. And I know obviously in the garden centre that can be a little bit varied, but generally those are the top 5 most popular, and they're all got great flavour.
Well, there's nothing better than a nice sweet strawberry, is there?
With a bit of cream, maybe, or ice cream,
or sugar, or even better, on a meringue with some other nice soft fruits, and make an decent mess. There's even and cream, obviously.
Indeed, no, they are such a versatile, and as you say, so easy to grow, and strawberries. I suppose after strawberries are probably the easiest of the soft fruits we can grow. I suppose in the garden at the end of the day, because they're
and
really
they send out all those runners that as long as you keep on propagating from every year or two, it's so easy to continue without having to sort of replant them. So they're a good, cost-effective fruit as well.
Most definitely, So so something to look forward to was you're enjoying Wimbledon. Grab yourself, if you can find some nice locally grown strawberries. But even better.
Brilliant. Yeah. And that means, Chris, we're at
that
part of the show where you're going to give me some more jobs, aren't you? So I'm going to say watering now the sun's come out. Obviously an important one. I mean, watering, I mean, it's being mindful of when you do it as well, isn't it? I mean, I was watering last night at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So you water in the evening? I generally try and do it in the morning.
It's just time.
That is life, isn't it? Does it really make that much difference, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you could do it early morning, sort of 6, 7 o'clock, I'm sure it is good, because then at least you're not giving the slugs and snails an opportunity to be tracking where you're going with your water supply, because obviously you tend to find the moisture, don't they? I think at the end of the day, as long as you're doing it when the sun's at its lowest, that's the key, isn't it? So you're not
watering at midday when the sun's at its fullest.
For evaporation and water conservation, and also it's hard work when the sun's beating down to actually water, isn't it? Do it well and efficiently, and just make sure making sure you can put some exercises. I moved all my houseplants out the other day, Peter, for summer, so I've taken them all off the sources so they drain nice naturally. And obviously as they came out of the house, they were given a good water, a good feed. to get them all to the same sort of moisture level. Of course, they're going to be watered by probably Mother Nature over the next few weeks, so that's worth bearing in mind.
I think also if you're going on holiday, chuck your houseplants outdoors if it's in the summer, because if you've got no one to help you water them, it doesn't hurt to, like you say, sort of take the trays or saucers that they stand in off and leave them outside in a not too. I generally put them in a slightly sheltered area, just behind the garden wall, because it protects them a bit from the wind. Because obviously houseplants don't get that much wind indoors, and indeed, that's good. That's good to know. And I think shade is important, because obviously houseplants are indoors, even if they're on a sunny windowsill. It's not like the sun they would get in the full extremes of weather as well. And then, of course, if June drop didn't happen on your fruit trees, July is the time to do a bit of fruit thinning. So that's your apples, pears, cherries, plums, and just go along and obviously thin out, take out 2 or 3. Chris, if I could thin my cherries, I would be over the moon. I've got 2 cherry trees, one that the squirrels and the pigeons seems to eat every year, so I've got no fruit on that. And my sunburst, which is down on the allotment, I'm going to say I might get 1 punnet this year if I'm lucky. Last year was a bonus year, but this year they've all been eaten again. But like you say, sort of thinning out apples was always an issue, because they're quite common to sort of get too many growing next to each other, aren't they? I noticed one of our fruit trees on the garden centre here, scrumptious. It's absolutely laden on the weight of the stem. So that's the other reason. Is to take the extra fruits out, just to help the boughs of your tree take the weight as well. So that's a nice job as well. And because that's more for younger trees, is it? Or any age of tree would you do that?
Younger, to a certain extent. If you probably can't actually do that to larger trees, because physically you can't go up a ladder to thin out. So hopefully June drop will happen. I suspect this year, with the way the weather's gone, that should have happened anyway. But who knows? It might be the opposite end. We get a bumper crop of overzealous
we can
plants.
but hope.
Yeah, indeed. Seed sowing on the veg plot. I put some more beetroot and lettuce in last night. Almost in torchlight, I have to say. I did it quite late. But I've got those in because I've got some spaces starting to appear in my raised bed. So those can be done. So lettuce, radish, all your salad crops can still be sown this month. And then obviously, pop down if you still haven't got your tomatoes and your peppers and things. Garden centres generally have a few into the month of July, so it's never too late with the tomato plant.
But tomatoes always taste so much better, don't they? A nice homegrown tomato.
Most definitely. And obviously on the good old lawn, keep the lawn. Try and adjust your blades, especially if you're you wanted to encourage a bit of wildlife. Put them at perhaps a higher setting. We're good.
Mow them rather than mowing every week, mow every other week or something. But I think that was one tip I learned a few years ago. Was if you're going away and you're worried about a drought or no water, leave the grass longer. In the same way, in the winter time, leave the grass longer because it just helps it a little bit. It gives a bit more resilience,
doesn't it? A bit more on there as well. A couple of things on perennials. Certainly supporting them. I was looking at helping a customer the other day. They got loads of delphiniums. They put new delphiniums in the spring. They're all now growing. So make sure you've got some nice support systems. Poppy Forge, I think, is a company we deal with. They do some really nice decorative products there and look quite nice in the garden. Although you won't see them eventually, but whilst they look a bit stock,
it's better than just sort of canes with bits of string round.
I think so. And also, with perennials, start taking cuttings. July is a good time for what they call semi-ripe, so things like your fuchsias, your dianthus, your carnations, a whole waft of perennials can be propagated at this time of year. And they root very quickly, so you'll have nice rooted plants for the winter. So try and do that as well. Feeding the birds, it's always a bit contentious, but I think the trouble is, if you've become a major supermarket for birds in your garden, they've come to you every month of the year. Keep the continuity going. Obviously, reduce the amount, but make sure you've got a bit of a mixture of bird food.
I'm having major issues with crows at the moment. They keep on. So I've got a couple of feeders out in the garden, and the crows keep on pulling them off their stand.
Oh,
it's
right,
like
okay.
They've learned that they can stand on the top of the bracket, lift up the whole...
Really? Oh.
Yeah, the whole bird feeder, and they drop it on the ground, and then they get a massive feed and feed with doing so little work.
Oh, gosh.
But
yeah.
great that they're that intelligent and they can work it out, so I shouldn't hate them for it. But it just makes... They go through an awful lot more bird food
of course,
at the moment.
yes.
That's life, isn't it?
It is. But, I mean, obviously we want to encourage the birds to eat the aphids and do all the other things which birds are very good to do there as well. And obviously, look at, obviously with the weather as it's been, make sure that you've got plenty of plants for your bees. So, I mean, the usual things, lavender, bergamot, the jasmines, all the things which are going to encourage the bees. I find salvias are really good. I remember, Salvia Hot Lips particularly does the job nicely. So make sure you've got a nice mixture of those in the garden.
And in the wild section, it's not they're not weeds, Chris. In a wild section in my garden, I got some purple loosestrife.
Oh, nice!
And they absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Didn't plant it. I don't know where it came from, but it
Doing the
looks
job,
nice as well.
Yeah.
It's a nice plant to have. So that and foxgloves and things like that. You can make a lovely garden.
You can make it
go wild.
Yeah, naturalistic. Yeah, and of course, talking about foxgloves, that's a good time to get some of those sown as well. So July, get a packet of seed. You'll get you get literally hundreds from a packet of seed. So grow some nice strong plants for planting out. You get some nice good strong plants for the autumn. And of course, you'll be enjoying those wonderful flower spikes this time next year. So that includes things like Sweet William and of course your wallflowers and your forget-me-nots as well. They're all very easy to grow. You don't need any special heat or anything. They naturally germinate very well at this time of the year. And obviously we're into July, so you can usually get away with doing all your major pruning of your hedges and things now that hopefully all the birds have flown from their nests. So have a little bit of time doing a bit of tidying up your topiaries and giving them a bit of a trim back too. So plenty to be doing there as well.
Excellent. And I see dahlias are lovely flower, aren't they? They're in season as well at the moment. Anything we need to think about for them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously if you've got them planted now, lots of water, lots of feed, a weekly feed, something high in potassium, give them a bit of a boost, keeping them well staked, especially if you've grown the tall varieties. Put some stakes with a pot with some straw or shredded newspaper to try and engage with the earwigs to try and deter them from your plants as well, because obviously they nibble at your stems and your flowers if you're not careful. But other than that, I mean, enjoy them. And if you've got the varieties for cutting, then obviously you might start bringing some of those into the house as well. So
brilliant.
Yeah, a lovely summer flower, and of course it flowers well into the autumn, which is why we have such a love affair with dahlias these days.
That's it. Excellent. Well, I guess that just about wraps us up for this month. Who have we got in a couple of weeks' time?
So we're talking pests and diseases, aren't we? Very timely.
Yeah, very timely.
Yes, we've got Andrew Mikulowski with us, and he's going to be talking all about pest and diseases and finding out how we can tackle some of them.
That'd be interesting then. Good stuff. Nice one. And I guess, as always, please tell your friends and family about us if they're into gardening.
Indeed.
Hopefully we can entertain them.
Indeed, and obviously have a little look at our back catalogue of diggets, especially if you're into your cut flowers. We're talking about dahlias. Have a look back at our cut flower dahlia, cut flower special a couple of podcasts ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's I'm quite proud of the fact we got 4 years worth of podcasts now, Chris.
We're doing nicely, isn't it? Yes,
definitely.
Yeah,
excellent. Okay then, we'll speak to you soon.
Indeed, see you next month.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Peter. Today's show was brought to you by Buckingham Garden Centre and Nurseries. The show was hosted by Chris Day and Peter Brown. The show was produced by Peter Brown. And our thanks to Chiltern Music Therapy for providing the music. Thanks for listening.
At Chiltern Music Therapy, we want everyone to know the difference that music can make in their lives. From parents and their premature babies in hospital to grandparents with dementia. We provide music therapy and community music services to people of all ages and needs across England. We work both digitally and in person in people's homes, care homes, schools, hospitals and hospices. Find out more at chilternmusictherapy.co.uk.